faithfully conveying value, interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Club. Today's book for you is The Power of Apology by Allen Lazar. Apologizing seems simple. Everyone can say, I'm sorry. But in daily life, we often encounter awkward situations when apologizing. For instance, sometimes we know we're wrong but can't voice the apology. Other times, after mustering courage to apologize, the other person rejects it, calling it insincere. Worse yet, sometimes an apology makes the other person even more upset. So you see, apologizing is easier said than done. Achieving the desired effect requires nuance. The power of apology teaches us how to apologize effectively. Author Allen Lazar shows that a well-executed apology resolves conflicts and brings unexpected benefits. Drawing from psychology and sociology, it explores apologies' meaning and impact. It uses real historical and personal cases to deepen understanding and application. Apology research has evolved into apology studies pursued by institutions like Wharton and Harvard. This book is the field's authoritative work, winning the Prose Award in Psychology. Author Allen Lazar is Chancellor Emeritus at UMass Medical School and a globally recognized apology expert featured in major media. His work appears in Psychology Today, The Washington Post, and The Wall Street Journal. This seminal work draws on his decade-long study of 1,000 plus apology cases. All right, that covers the book's background and author. Now, I'll detail the content in 3 parts. First, why do we apologize? Second, how to apologize effectively. Third, key considerations in apologizing. Let's start with part 1. Why do we apologize? What benefits and functions does apology serve? A mother's apology is the most effective way to resolve conflicts. At the beginning of the book, the author shares a personal family anecdote. One evening at dinner, the author's wife mistakenly accused their daughter of taking the dessert he'd prepared. Despite the daughter's firm denial, the wife publicly scolded her. The next morning, the wife discovered she'd left the dessert in the cupboard herself. The daughter then blamed her mother until repeated apologies finally prompted her to say triumphantly, I just love watching you apologize. Mother and daughter reconciled completely. Such minor conflicts are common in daily life, occurring not just among family, but also between colleagues, friends, even strangers. If we want to salvage a bad situation, apology is usually the most effective approach. According to the author's research, apologies resolve conflicts by meeting victims' psychological needs and healing wounds, like restoring their self-esteem and dignity. Whether facing minor slights or serious attacks, most offenses leave victims feeling humiliated with damaged dignity, like when the author's daughter was accused of theft before family losing face and suffering character denigration. The mother's apology reversed their positions. The previously dominant mother humbled herself, endured criticism, and sought forgiveness, while the formerly vulnerable daughter gained power to grant forgiveness, restoring mutual respect and equality to their relationship. And apologies also confirm the fault wasn't the victim's. Victims often wonder if they share responsibility, like girls harassed while shopping who question, do I look too easy to target? Was my outfit too attention-grabbing, inviting trouble? Others repeatedly ask, why me? Did I mess up? Am I too sensitive? When offenders admit fault, it clarifies the victim's innocence and dispels self-doubt. Moreover, apologies help victims establish a sense of security in relationships. After being offended, victims often can't be sure if similar things will happen again. To avoid being hurt again, they have to constantly guard against and distance themselves from the offender. But if the other party offers a sincere apology and explanation, the victim can understand why they acted that way, whether it was intentional or not. What is their perspective on this matter? Do we share the same values? Will similar things happen in the future? And so on. If the victim receives positive signals from the apology, they can rebuild trust and regain security in the relationship. Beyond these three needs, apologies can satisfy other victim desires like wanting to see punishment, venting pain, or seeking compensation. These are relatively easy to understand, so we won't elaborate further. Without an apology, these psychological needs go unmet and conflicts may escalate. Just as we often see in social news, violent incidents often start from trivial disputes. Another function of apology is to alleviate negative feelings within the offender. The book tells of a 71-year-old man who wrote to a friend to apologize for a mistake he made 60 years ago. Back then, his friend was mocked by a group of boys, and instead of standing by his friend, he joined in. Those boys, although this didn't affect their friendship, it became a long-standing burden for the old man. For decades, he was tormented by lingering guilt. After sending the apology letter, he received his friend's forgiveness and was finally freed from the negative memories. The author says that when we offend others, we typically experience two natural psychological reactions: guilt and shame. When we realize we're the cause of someone else's pain, we feel indebted and impose emotional punishment on ourselves. This is guilt. Recalling our actions makes us feel awful, not living up to our ideal self of integrity. This is shame. These two negative feelings were precisely the burden carried by that old man. In the process of apologizing, the offender has a chance to honestly admit their fault. And to make amends, to emerge from a state of guilt, apology also signifies willingness to take responsibility for one's actions. This allows the wrongdoer to regain feelings of integrity and nobility, and shame is thus eliminated. The third function of apology is to establish a good personal image for the apologizer. Many people think apologizing is embarrassing and damaging to their image, especially public apologies, but actually, it's not. For example, renowned writer Lu Xun encountered a student who pestered him while teaching. This student spoke incoherently and behaved strangely. Lu Xun mistakenly thought he was a troublemaker sent by literary rivals, disguised as his student to cause trouble. Feeling angry, he wrote an article criticizing this person's behavior. After the article was published, other students explained to Lu Xun that this student had experienced family troubles leading to some mental issues, which caused his strange behavior. Actually, he wasn't a bad person. Mr. Lu Xun had misunderstood. After learning this, Lu Xun was deeply remorseful and immediately published another article, publicly apologizing to the student and condemning himself for being too prone to suspicion, too prone to anger. After this incident, people didn't dwell on his mistake, but instead admired him more for his courage to admit fault and engage in self-criticism. Therefore, apologizing actually reflects a person's good qualities and cultivation, enhancing their personal image. In life, the person willing to proactively apologize to family and friends often appears more gracious. In the workplace, daring to apologize represents responsibility and accountability. Leaders willing to swallow their pride and apologize to colleagues and subordinates can better unite people. Next, let's expand our perspective from individuals to group apologies, which can also help companies, organizations, and other entities maintain reputation and gain social support. For example, in business practices, companies can turn crises into opportunities through apologies. The famous fast food chain, KFC, once faced logistics issues that caused chicken shortages in hundreds of UK stores, forcing temporary closures and sparking widespread consumer dissatisfaction. Afterward, KFC published an apology statement in local newspapers featuring a photo of an empty fried chicken bucket. Moreover, KFC's abbreviation was intentionally changed to FCK, representing a play on words for frustration. The apology letter below the FCC image titled "We're Sorry" stated, "Chicken restaurant without chicken, that's not ideal. We apologize to our customers, especially those who came to our stores only to find them closed. This humorous, self-mocking apology gained widespread recognition among the British. Netizens praised KFC across social media platforms. Through this apology, KFC not only appeased customers' negative emotions, but achieved excellent brand marketing results. So, in recent years, apologies from businesses and institutions have become increasingly frequent. Statistics show over 40 apology ads appear monthly in Japanese newspapers. Business operators increasingly realize that apologizing is the only way to prevent further losses during crises. When handled properly, the other party won't just forgive, but actively support you. Expanding to races and nations, apology plays a vital role in international relations. Post-War II, international apologies gradually increased, becoming key in state policy and diplomacy. For instance, in 1947, U.S. President Truman visited Mexico and bowed in apology before the monument to soldiers fallen in the Mexican-American War. This gesture was praised as healing a long-standing national wound. Germany had two chancellors personally repent at memorials for Nazi-persecuted Jews. Peacetime disputes over territory, wealth, and race persist. But today, most nations prefer civilized apologies over force to ease tensions and maintain stability. All right, that covers the first part's content. Why do we apologize? We've discussed 5 benefits and functions of apology. First, apology is the most effective conflict resolution method because it satisfies victims' psychological needs and heals wounds. Second, apology eliminates the wrongdoer's guilt and shame. Fifth, apology enhances the wrongdoer's personal image. Fourth, apology helps groups like businesses win social support. Fifth, for larger groups like nations, apology helps maintain stability. Thus, whether as individuals or group members, we all benefit from apology. Okay, that's why we apologize. Next, let's discuss the second part, how to apologize correctly. According to the author's research, effective apologies must include 4 elements: acknowledgement of fault, self-blame, explanation, and compensation. First, let's examine the most crucial element, and acknowledging fault is the foundation of apology. It's not just saying sorry and being done. The act of acknowledging fault can be divided into at least 4 steps. First, clarify who should apologize to whom. Not all conflicts start with clear opposing parties. For example, when a company makes a mistake, who should step forward to apologize? Depends. For minor harmless errors, the responsible person or department can apologize. But for serious mistakes affecting core brand values, top management must intervene to show the company's commitment. Like when Apple was accused in 2013 of discriminatory after-sales policies in China, a critical consumer rights issue. Although responsibility lay with the service department, Apple CEO Tim Cook personally apologized with compensation measures, regaining Chinese consumers' respect. Identifying the apology recipient is equally critical. An internet celebrity hit his girlfriend during a live stream. In his apology, he claimed deep reflection about harming the public and damaging his company, but never mentioned his girlfriend. He apologized only to those affecting his career, company, and public, revealing his motive was escaping punishment and protecting his image. Netizens later condemned his insincerity for ignoring the real victim. His company terminated his contract. Step 2. Clearly state what you did wrong. For instance, if a guy angers his girlfriend and just says, "Sorry, I was wrong," repeatedly, it's useless. The girl will likely ask, "What exactly were you wrong about?" If you can't answer or explain clearly, forgiveness is nearly impossible. When explaining your mistake, any vague language feels insincere and causes resentment. Phrases like "I apologize for whatever I did" or "it's all my fault" are usually ineffective with girlfriends. They'll think you're not seriously reflecting at all. The right approach is to clearly state the specific mistake, explain where you went wrong, and acknowledge the error. Step 3 is to understand and admit the harm caused to the victim. B, for example, if you accidentally break a vase, you need to know how important it is to its owner. Understand its value, then use empathy to grasp their perspective. Only then can you effectively apologize. If you can't understand the harm they suffered or deliberately downplay it, the apology often backfires. A case in the book, the student newspaper at Spokane Community College published a letter with racist and sexist views. Its content harmed women, minorities, LGBTQ plus groups. Although the paper claimed this was to raise awareness of racism on campus, it didn't achieve that. Instead, it heightened racial tensions. More infuriatingly, students later discovered the letter's author was fabricated. The letter was actually written by newspaper staff. Afterward, the newspaper issued a failed apology stating, "We apologize to anyone who may have been offended by this letter." In other words, they didn't admit that fabricating racist information was wrong and harmful, and merely suggested some readers might be oversensitive, which infuriated students further. The author believes a proper apology should say, "We sincerely apologize for writing this racist letter. Although our intention was to raise awareness of campus racism, we used the wrong approach. Our actions were misleading. We are deeply reflecting now and are truly sorry for hurting so many people." Such acknowledgement clearly explains what was wrong and admits the harm caused. Acknowledging fault. Step 4 is to admit that this behavior violates established social or moral contracts. This also means the wrongdoer shows the victim that they share the same values, and such behavior won't happen again. This is a promise to the victim. For example, the book mentions that the Bureau of Indian Affairs under the U.S. Department of the Interior severely harmed Native American communities during wars. In a public apology speech, the secretary not only acknowledged historical wrongdoings, but stated, "The Bureau's actions deeply hurt the very communities we should serve, failing our mission to prevent destruction." This conveyed they shared the same peacekeeping values, while admitting the Bureau's actions violated this consensus. Additionally, the author notes that tone and wording matter. Avoid phrases like "since it already happened" that sound detached. Conditional statements like "if anyone was hurt" can ruin a carefully crafted apology. After acknowledging fault, let's discuss apology's second element, self-blame. Self-blame means feeling genuine regret and guilt, inwardly condemning oneself as a form of self-punishment. It also signifies willingness to take responsibility and commit to future improvement. Therefore, showing sincere self-blame often determines whether people forgive the wrongdoer, a crucial indicator. The University of Illinois study had participants imagine a cyclist injuring a pedestrian. Researchers designed two apology approaches for the cyclist. First, "Sorry you got hurt. Hope you recover soon." Second, "I'm truly sorry I hurt you. This accident was entirely my fault. I was biking too fast without watching the road." Results showed 73% felt the second apology demonstrated remorse and self-blame, making it more acceptable to the injured party than the first. The third essential element is providing an explanation. Imagine at work, you failed to complete a task assigned by your boss. At this point, would merely admitting fault and self-blaming satisfy your superior? Usually we must report the specific causes, whether human error or external factors, and how to prevent recurrence. Detailed explanations help distinguish intentional versus accidental behavior and show preventive measures, aiding forgiveness. Dishonest or insufficient explanations feel like making excuses and weaken the apology. For instance, the book mentions a U.S. senator who insulted Arabs in a speech. His half-hearted apology explanation, "I spoke faster than I thought," was unconvincing and worsened the offense. The final element of effective apology is compensation, which is crucial in certain situations. Part, the author shares a personal experience. His photographer friend accidentally dropped equipment on Lazar's expensive antique lampshade during an office shoot, shattering its ornaments. Though the friend apologized repeatedly, he showed no intention to compensate when Lazar asked about the lampshade, infuriating Lazar. As with Lazar's case, if we can compensate for harm but refuse to, the apology fails. Is compensation always material? Not necessarily. For verbal offenses, symbolic gestures like buying coffee or a meal can suffice. If I'm sure, directly ask, what can I do to make it right? All right, that covers the second part of the book, how to apologize correctly. We've learned effective apologies require four essential elements. First, acknowledging fault, the most crucial foundation. Second, self-blame, expressing regret and accepting responsibility. Third, explanation, clarifying the reasons behind the mistake. Fourth, compensation, either material or symbolic. Now, let's discuss the final part, key considerations when apologizing. First, timing matters. Many think apologies should be immediate, but context determines the right moment. Sometimes allowing a cooling off period before apologizing is better. For example, if you accidentally offend a colleague during a heated meeting, causing them to storm out, at this moment, the other person is furious. If you immediately follow them out to apologize, it's like adding fuel to the fire. And similar to this, serious personal offenses include publicly humiliating someone, deceiving friends, betraying others, and so on. A more appropriate approach is to give the victim some time to calm down before apologizing. The length of the cooling off period varies depending on the situation. It could be a few hours or even days, weeks, or longer. During this time, the victim has a chance to vent emotions, understand the situation, and gradually cool down, while the wrongdoer can more carefully consider how to apologize and think about compensation measures. Sometimes both parties may share some responsibility. Having a cooling off period first helps everyone think rationally about solutions. However, when the mistake is not personal or not very serious, we need to apologize immediately. For example, if you accidentally bump into someone at a party, causing their wine to spill on them, this kind of accident could happen to anyone. It's not targeted at the victim personally. You should apologize right away, or others might think you're either rude or intentional. Another situation requiring immediate apology is when an obvious mistake occurs in the public sphere, which differs from private settings. In the public domain, negative information is immediately exposed to the public eye and spreads rapidly. The wrongdoer doesn't have much time to handle it slowly. Public opinion will keep fermenting, and any delay will invite more questions and cause serious losses. For instance, United Airlines once forcibly removed a passenger from a plane. Afterward, they delayed apologizing and only issued a lukewarm statement. It wasn't until the incident was exposed by major media outlets that United Airlines stock plummeted and the CEO finally wrote a formal apology announcement. However, by then, the public was no longer accepting it. This mistake caused United Airlines' market value to evaporate nearly $1 billion. In contrast, let's look at a case where the apology was timely. The famous restaurant chain Heidi Lau was exposed by the media for food safety issues in 2017. Heidi Lau responded immediately that same day, issuing 3 statements to apologize to consumers, expressing willingness to bear economic and legal responsibilities and announcing corrective measures. This series of actions quickly reversed the public opinion trend, successfully maintained the brand image, and was hailed by industry insiders as a model for corporate crisis management. Besides delayed and immediate apologies, people sometimes apologize preemptively when anticipating future unpleasantness. For example, leaving a meeting early. In such cases, you might notify everyone in advance. Apologies, I need to step out early. Or if a husband has evening commitments and will return late, he might tell his wife in the morning, um, sorry, dear, can't join you for dinner tonight. Thus, timing depends on context. Missing the optimal window diminishes the apology's impact. However, failing the best timing isn't irreparable, though regrettable, like the elderly man apologizing for childhood mistakes or national leaders apologizing for historical wars. Some apologies delayed years or decades still hold value. It's never too late. The second consideration, apology doesn't end disputes. The author states apologies are negotiation processes, not unilateral resolutions. For complex conflicts, apologies initiate rather than conclude discussions. Negotiations may involve responsibility shares, victim expression, punishment, and compensation. All conflict related aspects become negotiable content. Business and international negotiations often feature such apology discussions. The book cites a U.S. North Korea case. In 1994, a U.S. helicopter crashed in North Korean airspace. The pilot was captured. North Korea accused the aircraft of spying, demanding a public admission, which the U.S. refused to fully comply with. Both sides negotiated a compromise. The pilot wrote an apology letter. It admitted violating sovereignty and international law, but not espionage. After the public apology letter, the pilot was released. Clearly, the content and form of this apology were negotiated outcomes. Both the United States and North Korea made certain concessions. Successful negotiated apologies involve mutual communication, agreement on issues, rebuilding relationships, and achieving win-win outcomes. Even if an initial apology fails, it can spark honest dialogue that leads to positive resolutions. All right, that concludes part 3. We covered 2 key apology considerations. Timing depends on context. Faster isn't always better. And apologies are negotiated processes. Unilateral actions don't resolve disputes. With that, we've nearly covered the book. I trust you've gained new perspectives on apology. How we apologize reflects how we confront mistakes. To err is human, after all. Persistent denial of past errors prevents growth. Facing faults and apologizing takes courage. It's essential for personal development. As the author concludes, apologies were once seen as weakness. Today, they're recognized as strength, the power of apology. That's our interpretation. Keynotes are below. See you tomorrow.